Follow along as I take you step by step through my process of making a healthier, lower calorie and higher protein risotto. A typical risotto would usually call for a lot more butter, but this one makes 4 servings and only uses a half a stick. So we'll take 1 dap, put it aside to line the pan that we're going to cook in, and then cut up the rest of it into little cubes and put aside for later. Let your pan heat up at medium heat for about 2 to 3 minutes, then chuck in your butter and let it come up to temp. Notice how the bubbles are getting a little bit closer together, not taking quite as long. That's when we'll go ahead and throw in our rice, get that toasted. And we'll do that at a medium heat for 2 to 3 minutes. Nothing crazy, just enough to dry it out and get it soaking up all the hot stock. Do a little bit of a coarse grind for this Parmesan cheese. Nothing too crazy, not going crazy with the calories today. At this point, you want to make sure to just keep it slightly agitated and moving around the pan. Now at this point, I'm hearing a slight sizzle. You know that this is being toasted, so just don't want to burn it. Control your temperature, guys. Now this is nicely toasted. You can tell by the smell. It'll start to have like a nutty, kind of cooked off smell to it. And from there, I'm going to just add in our already pre-warmed beef bone broth. And I'm going to agitate it as much as possible. That's the whole idea of how this thing works. For each of the times that I'm adding stock into the pan, it's roughly a cup of bone broth, and then constant agitation is the key, so I like using a whisk. Now at this point you'll see it's kind of turning like a soupy texture. Give it another minute, let some of that soak up, and then we will hit it again. You can clearly see that there's a difference in the consistency of the liquid. Specifically, the bubbles are getting a little bit bigger and they're lasting longer as we reduce down more stock with the rice. Now we'll go ahead and add in our 3rd cup of stock and whisk it again until it reduces down. Now this is just a good slow-mo visual. That shit looks good. Now we'll just keep whisking our mixture until it starts to thicken up and becomes like a perfect risotto. So you can see in this next clip, the bubbles are even bigger, it's starting to hold like a suspension, and that texture is looking right at this point. Once your risotto starts to take on this type of consistency, we can go ahead and start turning the temperature down or even off. Continue whisking it just a little bit and let the temperature drop just a bit. Then we'll add in our butter. Put your room temperature butter in there and just whisk it in with no heat, just very rigorously. The harder you whisk it in, the more it's going to integrate and the smoother the texture will be. Now we'll do the exact same thing with the cheese. We want to mount it in slowly so that it doesn't break and have all the fat pulling out. And the last thing that we'll do is just a little bit of rough chopped parsley to garnish, and everything is done. Now this is your finished product, guys. This is a reasonable addition to almost any meal plan and tastes delicious.